So I made a video talking about loneliness back in May when my finger was like half operational. While my finger has healed, I think, I wanted to talk about loneliness again, but this time from the other perspective. Sometimes I think being lonely is good. Sometimes being lonely is good because it gives you time to work and not be interrupted. I said in my last loneliness video that when my girl came over, and you can watch it up here by the way, but when my girl came over, I couldn't get any work done because I knew she was here and I'm used to being alone because I was an only child and that's the only way I know how to work, if that makes sense. I feel like if you grew up with a lot of brothers or sisters or other people in your house, then you have a slight advantage because you know how to work in a fairly distractive environment, if that makes sense. On the other hand, it was always pretty quiet in my house because it was just my mom, my cat, and myself, except when I was playing video games on the mic. My mom rarely ever distracted me, but when she did, it just so happened to be right in the middle of a multiplayer game that I couldn't pause, and she never seemed to understand that, like every parent ever. Anyway, like I said, sometimes I think being and working alone is beneficial when you're alone because you're alone with your own thoughts. There isn't anyone around to distract you with theirs or calling you to ask you to do something or anything like that. It gives you time to deeply think, and as you know from my last video, I classify myself as a deep thinker. I think my best ideas come from me being alone with my own thoughts, and as you can tell from this great catalog of videos on this channel, I think it also increases your productivity. I said before that I didn't have any brothers or sisters, so when my friends came over or when other people came over, it was a treat and stuff like that. But I think because I was an only child and there weren't that many people around, it kind of made me want the attention, if that makes sense. Let me explain what I mean. So, when my friends and I would say we're going out to do something, like say for the movie, let's say we're going to the movies, for example, I would get excited, even now at the age of 25, because I think that I missed out on the attention when I was younger. So now it's like I'm making up for it. So now when I make plans with my friends or even my girl, I get excited. So it makes it hard for me to get any work done because I know that my friends are coming over or I know that my girl and I are going to do something later, and that's my problem. I don't know if it comes down to having ADHD or whatever it is, but that's just what happens. So if I'm doing something that involves me, like writing a script, say, I have to make sure I don't have any plans on that day or even sometimes the next day because I get excited and therefore I get distracted. If it has something to do with like shooting B-roll where all my shots are already written down and I just have to, shoot the video, then that's fine. But I can't be creative and excited at the same time, if that makes sense. In addition to not being distracted, I think it can also boost your creativity. I remember seeing this interview with Bill Gates and, basically what he does is he goes on these things called Think Weeks. And basically he takes a box of books out to some cabin in the forest and he goes by himself to just read and think and develop his thoughts. And he said that he does that because it helps him visualize the future. I also found this article, which I'll link down below, and it essentially said that you should have a third spot which isn't at work or at home without any distractions from coworkers or kids or spouses. Is that even the word, spouses? Pets, technology, or anything like that, because if you don't, you'll never be able to focus on higher order activities. But one other good thing about being alone? You have total control over your, opinions and decisions and other things like that. Let's say somebody that's a pessimist, right? The glass is always half empty to them. There's always something wrong in their life. You know how they are. I'm not gonna lie, I'm like that sometimes, but I think everybody has those days. Anyway, I think being alone sometimes is good because you don't have any outside opinions swaying your opinions and decisions. Let's say you have to choose between two different jobs. If you have a friend that has a car, they might not mind having to commute half an hour because they have a car. But let's say you're like me and you have to take the bus and say it takes you an hour, that friend won't see that it'll take you an hour because it'll only take them half an hour. Granted, they're only seeing it from, their perspective, but you kind of see what I mean? You might have another friend that makes 30 grand a year. So if you told them that you had the opportunity to take a job where you make, say, 60 grand a year, depending on their belief structure, they might tell you to take that job no matter what, because they might be looking to make more money even if they hate the job. Whereas with me, I would take the job I liked more even if it meant that it paid me less. But then again, those are my beliefs. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't ask your friends or your spouse when you have a big decision coming up, but I think before you ask anyone, you should think about it by yourself. Because again, you don't want those external opinions being forced on you. If you ask your friends and your spouse before, they can say, hey, you know what? This job isn't worth X amount of dollars per year, but you know in your heart that you'll like the job. Then when you go home, you're constantly going to be thinking about the job isn't worth X amount of dollars per year because of the belief structure that your friend placed in your lap. You kind of see what I'm saying? But being alone can also strengthen relationships. We've all heard the saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder, and it's the truth. I remember when my mom passed away, for the first couple months after that, I was with my girl every day because I didn't want to be alone. Actually, you know what? Thinking back, it was probably for a year or even more. But anyway, I didn't want to be alone. But after kind of getting over the initial grief, I started to feel a little bit of burnout, I guess you could call it, because I was doing the same thing every day. I would come home from work and I would go to her house and then we would eat and we would watch a movie or something. And then I would go home, go to bed and do it all over again. So then after that, we started implementing days where we would stay home and focus on our own things. I'm actually really appreciative of her for letting me come over every day and essentially putting her life and recreational projects on hold in order to help me cope with my life situation. But getting back to the point I was trying to make, now we have time away from each other for about 2 to 3 days per week for me to focus on videos and for her to work on whatever she wants to. Then we reconvene and talk about what we did, how my videos are coming along, what she did, what we have to do this week or this weekend, and it's just a better time overall. One thing I want to say before I end the video is that you shouldn't classify being alone as laying in bed and scrolling on your phone, because that won't help you. It might even make you feel worse because yeah, you might be alone, but you might see someone with their friends on TikTok and it might make you feel bad that you're not with your friends. So then you start kind of drifting over to the bad side of loneliness and feeling down and stuff like that. You're going to start overthinking and you know how it goes. If you're going to take time alone, do it to do something productive, like organizing your calendar for the week or reading a book or listening to music or just sitting and looking outside. It might help more than you think. I've placed articles down in the description for your convenience and for additional reading if you want to. Anyway, I hope this video brought you some value, and as always, thanks for watching.